Welcome to the Fearless Asian Man Show, where we help Asian guys become strong men who naturally attract and keep their dream woman. And today we have a really special guest. We have Ruby Lay from Good Gentlemen. And Ruby, welcome to the podcast.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me. I'm excited to be here.
Likewise, we were just chatting a little bit beforehand, and we were talking about how, well, I was actually just complimenting you on how I like how your brand focuses on good gentlemen. And the question I want to start out by asking you is, what have you noticed about good gentlemen, and why do they struggle when it comes to, getting a girlfriend?
So here's the thing. So first off, I would say good gentleman comes from me saying that these guys have good intentions. They're good intentioned gentlemen. They have good hearts, right? So they started off with that. However, it's a struggle for them because they just don't know. Like they have that's simply put, because dating is very confusing. It's very frustrating. You don't know how to navigate it. All you know is that you have a good heart. But in this crazy dating world, a lot of them are just confused, whether
Mm,
that be within themselves or what's going on out there in the world or with women. They just don't know. That's what I could simply state. They're confused.
gotcha.
It's confusion in all of this.
Yeah, and I can definitely relate because I remember when I started out in my journey, I started around college time where I kind of stumbled upon the pickup industry. And I thought, first of all,
Mhm.
as like a shy Asian guy who's also described as a nerd, I thought it was amazing because of the possibilities. However, the biggest thing that I actually believe hindered my progress was just the fact that there was too much information, or I didn't know what my problem was. And I think a lot of good gentlemen, or a lot of guys that have a good heart, they probably are confused about why women don't like them, and they probably lack confidence, to be real. And
Mhm.
how do you suggest a guy that has a good heart to really start building his confidence? Because I know a lot of Asian guys too, we're raised to be really uh, familial in the sense of respect our elders, be it like a good
Yes.
boyfriend type, but then they're like, women don't like me, or women put me in the friend zone, and I
Mhm.
just don't know what to do. And what would your advice be?
So, couple layers to this. The first thing is they don't know who they are. Probably majority of the clients that have come to me, they don't know what makes them attractive. They don't. When I ask them, "Who are you?" They can't answer that because I mean, you can even tie it to the Asian background because I'm Asian too. And
Mm,
growing up, you are raised to be a certain way, and it is impounded in you to become a certain way. Were my parents happy that I became this coach? No, but I had to find my own identity and find out who I am. And a lot of times, the guys don't know who they are, and that is what ties to confidence. Because I do feel that once you know your attractive traits, once you know what exactly is great about you and what gets the women, that is what builds the confidence. Because that goes back to knowledge. It's just like any area in our life, right? If once we gain the knowledge and experience or some kind of information, we gain more confidence and the anxiety lessens,
mhm,
the fear lessens because you say, okay, at least now I know. Like now I know what makes me attractive. Like now I know this is what makes me me, and this is my identity. This is my value. I get it. But
mhm.
because they don't have that, and because they don't really look inside and internally, especially Asians, we don't do that. It's not something anyone has ever taught us to do.
It's kind of
So
actually
that's usually the first step.
mhm.
Tell me what?
Oh, no, just like usually it's actually, yeah, it's not encouraged because I actually released a course recently for Asian guys, not trying to plug it, but one part I did mention was, yeah, we're not, Asian parents don't, I think in general, most parents don't encourage introspection. Like you don't have like a parent
Yeah.
that's a life coach for most people. And especially Asian parents are just like, why are you crying? Like you're supposed to get that A. And it's
Hmm.
kind of like the Asian person, whether it's a guy or girl, they kind of like bottle things up, and I don't think that's really healthy when it comes to expressing and connecting. And I'm
Hmm.
trying to put myself in my shoes, let's say 5 years ago, and I'm trying to imagine if I were listening to this podcast, I'd say, Ruby, that sounds great, but I don't know. I don't know myself. How do I get to knowing who I am, what I value? I mean, it sounds
Yeah.
hard.
No.
It's very conceptual.
Right. So I absolutely love doing this because most of my mentors are very analytical and it needs a structure. And I feel that that's very important. That's how you get the job done. So
Mhm.
overall, I always state first off, authenticity. So being you, being who you are without seeking approval from anybody else. Now, how do you find that out? What is that?
Mm.
Look at who you are right now and what you enjoy. So usually what I do is I do believe everybody has the attractive traits already. It's in there. You just don't know. So first thing you do is figure out, yeah, who are you? What do you like doing? List your interests first, because that's pretty evident. I'm pretty sure there's not a single person out there that just comes home and sits on a couch and does absolutely nothing. Video games, reading books, technology, whatever interest it is. The best way is to list it out, and then from there to look at that interest and see, what does that say about you? Why do you like that? Why do you like being active? Oh, because it challenges me physically. That's an attractive trait. You like being challenged and you grow from that. Why do my guys love video games? It's because it's intellectually stimulating and it actually works their creative side. It puts you in a different world. That, you see that? So just grabbing from your interest, you can actually branch off, and it tells anybody so much about who you internally are. And that unique trait of you is what makes you attractive. I hope that makes sense.
Oh, that totally does. Like for me, I'm like, this is great advice. You guys should be taking notes and really
Yeah.
internalizing it. Because I feel like it is true. I think a lot of guys, and I know we were kind of talking about how our advice in general is a little bit of a different philosophy compared to pickup artists. And I know like the
Yeah.
pickup industry, because I actually used to work for a company, not as an instructor, but more on the marketing side. And I noticed it has evolved and it's unregulated. So it's not saying all of it's bad. But I think a lot of guys, what they do wrong, and I would like to hear your opinions on this, is they feel like they need to perform and like become or act like a different type of man instead of coming from who they already are. And that's something I've noticed over time. And it kind of goes to tie back to Asian guys. I feel like a lot of Asian guys have really deep shame because the way we grow up is, you know, with like tiger parents that kind of beat into us, like you have to always prove yourself. And consequently, they take that over into dating, right? They feel like they can prove themselves by acting like the man that they think women want. And I know it kind of messes them up because then it becomes like this weird search for confidence. Like, I don't feel confident enough. If only I can master this stuff, then I can become confident. And how do you suggest a guy to kind of get out
Mhm.
of all that analysis? Because I'm sure you work with a lot of introverted men that are really in their head, right? As you mentioned.
Yeah. Yes. Definitely. Like sheets of Excel, sheets of everything, very analytical. And
I'm guilty of
in
that
that
too.
case, and it's helpful in a sense. Just for example, like that kind of activity does help them at least gain insight into who they are. Um, Now, in general, there were several things said that I kind of wanted to pinpoint. Uh, First off, we talked about the shame and then having to go through all of that. At the end of the day, it all revolves around rejection. I believe it's
Mhm.
about doing this so you don't get rejected. Because
Yeah.
if I am myself and I get rejected, what does that mean? You know, that means
Mhm.
that I'm not good enough and that
Mhm.
I suck at dating. It's more
Mhm.
hurtful and it's more painful to feel that than to pretend to be someone else, and then if that doesn't work, get to be somebody else, if that makes sense. So it's less painful. However, what I always say is that everyone needs to remember that the only person that can really reject you is you, including parents, including your family. Whatever shame they give you, if you are confident in what you're doing and you know this is me, oh, I'm still your child, like I know what I'm doing, then usually they're okay. So that stigma, the shame needs to be taken away, and that's more internal work. Um, and what was the last question you asked? What was the second part?
How
There
do
were
you
several
suggest
things in there.
yeah, how do you suggest them to get out of their head? Because I notice for a lot of guys,
Oh yeah.
the toughest part, actually with learning in general, I always like to relate things to bigger concepts. The
Hmm.
toughest thing is once, as we know, information alone isn't enough. Information is definitely power because there's kind of like the whole, if you're not sure what's wrong with you or what to improve on rather, of course you can't improve. But once you know it, they might think like, I know it intellectually, like what Ruby or Jeremy is saying is correct, but
Hmm.
I can't bring myself to do it, or it doesn't feel true to me. So they know it intellectually as being right, but they're like, they're like, I know I should get out of my head and really be more of myself. But every time I see a beautiful girl, I just open my mouth and then I start either stuttering or I don't know what to say, or I notice that I'm trying
Okay.
so hard and I'm trying to stop myself, but I can't stop it. And
Stop talking. Even as your goes like, stop. Um, okay, so I've always said whenever that happens, and I call it a barrier. It is a barrier. Once you kind of start going this downward spiral,
Mhm.
I like to have what I call a lifeline. That makes sense.
Hmm.
Like it comes in and saves you. So what I've done and what I've said before is find a line that works well for you when you feel that that happens, that gets you to
Hmm.
do something. Because at the end of the day, you just have to do something. That's it.
Yeah.
Whenever anybody goes in a downward spiral, I say stop. Like,
Hmm.
what
Yeah.
do you want? Point one. What do you want? What do you need to do? Go do it. That's it. That's really it. Okay, what do you want? Well, I want to go on a date.
Hmm.
Okay, go do it. What do you need to do to go to do that? Get online dating. Okay, then go do that. It's simple. Now,
Hmm.
what happens afterwards? You can fix it. Now, the lifeline. What I mean by that is, it's the line you tell yourselves. Let's say when you're in front of a public space and you need to give a speech and you freak out and you have anxiety. There's something that you're telling yourself to calm yourself down. Because I believe that once you calm your mind down, that you can do what you actually want to do. Like that's key. Once you can figure out a way to calm your mind down, you will do what you want to do. So what I mean by lifeline is I do the Nike, just do it. Like I tell myself that if I freak out, and I freak out at different things all the time. It could be something like doing an exercise or doing a really bad hike. I'm like, just do it. Or what is there to lose? I think that's a really good one that a lot of my clients use. Like, what is the worst thing that can happen? Well, really, what is the worst thing that can happen? And they
Hmm.
usually it's not that bad. So if you think about it that way, that should push you to get out there. Because that's really it. So giving
Um,
yourself some kind of lifeline to put in your own mind and recognizing when you go in a downward spiral to just stay, stop, calm yourself down, breathe, whichever it is, just do it. Do something. That's all you need. Do something.
hmm.
So it's just a mental reminder, I would say. But you have to be they have to be strong enough to know when
Yeah.
that happens and to implement it, because that's all it is. Because you're right,
Hmm.
too many people do too much googling and reading and they don't do anything. You have to do something.
Yeah, that kind of reminds me actually how there's actually one thing I do want to comment on, which I think is really brilliant. And by the way, I want to mention to the listeners that Ruby did give a TEDx talk, from what I remember. So she has
Yes.
done the public speaking. It's not spoken from just theory. I'm sure you might have even used the lifeline because I was
Yeah, I did.
out in front of I'm like, crap, what was I going to speak about?
Especially if that's like your dream. Like I loved TED or TEDx, and I was like, oh my gosh, it's very nerve wracking.
Oh, I don't doubt that. One day I might muster up the balls to do that or the courage to do that. But the one point I did want to mention is more of a comment on what you said. Yes, I think guys, especially Asian guys, but usually let's point towards introverted men that are usually, let's say, let's be honest, in engineering, a very analytical field, they overthink it. And this is a thing where I do want to
Mhm.
mention, and you can happy to hear your comments on how dating and attraction, or even asking a girl out, a lot of it's an emotional process, and it's not a thing where if you figure it out, it's going to prepare you. Like, yeah, sometimes you want to do your work beforehand to have that lifeline, but on the other hand, at the very end of the day, you're connecting with someone, and it's a very emotional thing.
Yes, exactly. You said the key word right there,
Mhm.
connection. That's all it is. Because I will say, I think the analytical side comes out when you actually have to imagine dating a number, uh, trying to hit on her, getting the date, getting the yes. When at the end of the day, you're just connecting with someone.
Mhm.
That's the simple part. That's the foundation. I always have to tie them back to and ground anyone that kind of starts to overthink. I said, just remember, you're just connecting. That's really it. What about a first date? What if the conversation doesn't go well? If the conversation doesn't go well, then oh no, then that means that I can't even. No, you're just you're just connecting. It's keeping it simple, really.
Yeah, and I found that tends to be very effective for people in general when learning. And I would think that, I guess the next question I would have if I were listening to this is, how do we go about connecting? Let's say I'm a guy who doesn't have the confidence to go ask out, let's say the girl at work or wherever else. And I'm like, okay, that makes sense, just focus on connecting. But how do I go about connecting with a woman? How do I connect with her and really do authentically too, not just like in a weird, like, hey, if I say this, she will feel connected to me.
Commonality, common interest, and
Mhm.
figuring out what you two share in common and going off of that, because that's a part of you and that's a part of her. And once you find something that you both connect on, it's more easy to converse. It's more easy to talk about it. And then from there, you can flesh it out. That's what I say. You flesh it out from there. So once you figure out that she likes that, let's say, I don't know, what's an activity? I just thought of being outside. Let's say she likes yoga and she likes being active. Oh, you do too. And taking it from there. Well, what's your routine? Why do you enjoy it? Oh, what do you hope to do next? And you kind of drag it up from there. So common traits and commonality is always what connects two people. And here's another thing, just having fun.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
A lot of my guys forget that you can have fun on these dates. And I hear all the time, they come back and they're like, oh no, like I didn't learn enough about her. It wasn't fun at all. And I was like, well, did you have fun? No. Did you try to make it fun? Like you can make it fun in your own way. Like you have control over these dates. Use your humor. And if she doesn't laugh, then she doesn't get it. Then she doesn't get it. It's
Yeah.
okay. But all it takes is those common traits and just making it a fun environment, and anybody can do that.
Yeah, and you do mention a really good point, because I remember how I can really vibe with the guys that you help, because I remember feeling like, oh my god, I'm never gonna find a girlfriend, or I feel like, not to be crude, but I feel like I'm just being used for my body. And the thing is, over time, it became a draining thing where I'm like, what's wrong with me? But I remember hearing from various girls that I dated, they're like, yeah, dating should be fun. I was thinking like, yeah, for you, right? Because I was kind of better back then. Or just like, oh, it's so hard. But I do want to say it is true. Like, it's your frame of mind, for the guys listening, that you can have fun dating. And the other thing I do want to say, and maybe Ruby can expand on it, is the right girl for you will say. You don't need to force yourself to be someone that you're not, and you can have fun while you're meeting the right girl for you.
Exactly. Exactly. And they need to remember that we're just trying to find that one person. That one, which means that all the other dates, yeah, they're not going to work out, but it will lead you to that one person. Because I mean, that's why I always say the worst that can happen is that you're just going to learn. That's it.
Yeah.
You're going to either learn she's not it for you, or you're going to learn, oh, hey, you made a mistake. That's okay. You said something that was maybe offensive. I don't know. That's fine. You learn and you grow and you keep moving forward.
Yeah.
And if your humor doesn't match with hers, it's not your fault. It doesn't mean anything less. That's why I've always said, just the most dangerous thing any guy can do is allowing someone that doesn't really know you to define you. Because that's what usually brings them down. Right? From there's like, oh man, maybe I'm not as funny. Maybe my humor is not so great. It's like, well, it's just one person that doesn't know you. And usually a stranger doesn't know you that well. So don't let that define you.
Yeah, I think this is also where kind of experience comes in, where for me, I noticed that I would take girls on the same dates, because I'm probably not very original, but eventually got expensive paying for a lot of drinks. So I'm like, okay, I need to save money and be financially responsible. But I noticed that I could be saying, not that I was consciously saying or doing the same thing, but usually the first date topics are more or less the same, or they cover the same grounds. And I noticed that some women will respond entirely different to our connection and how we're vibing. And some girls will respond in a positive way, other girls neutral, other girls probably think I'm really weird, and that's fine. Or they're not feeling it, and that's okay. And I think over time, as guys experience that, they start to realize how this is kind of self-work, but at the same time, it's there's some things where it's like you can't take it personally, or you don't need to take it personally, because it's not you. It's just literally like putting two things together, and there sometimes is alignment, and other times there's not alignment, and that's fine.
Exactly. Exactly. And what I will say on top of that is a lot of what's happened. Okay, actually, there's two things, and hopefully I won't forget the two things. In regards to dates, change it up, because that's probably my most popular question. Like, what do you do on a first date? When my clients actually do start getting dates, they get tired of the same coffee shop, the same happy hour, the same dinner. And that's when I say, well, how else can you make it fun? And I would say that the best kind of dates are those that you don't cost any money. You're just exploring a town. You're just kind of walking around and actually experiencing something different, because that allows for a conversation more than sitting down face to face and asking questions. Happy hour or not, it's still, you want to make it more lighthearted and, like I said, a fun environment.
Yeah.
And the second part of it I was going to quickly state is a lot of this is internal. So what I mean by that is the mindset of, this isn't going to work, this isn't working, I'm tired, dating isn't fun, instead of recognizing what is working. That's usually a very, very popular mistake I've seen is, oh, that date didn't work again. It's because I must have said this, and it's not happening, and it must be the dinners, or it must be because this is a small town. It's like, okay, that's what's not working. Now, what is working? What else can you do? Oh, maybe change up the dates, and thinking in that mindset, and that healthy mindset.
Yeah, and I think that's a really great advice because it reminds me of a quote from Albert Einstein: "Your level of thinking is what creates your problems, or you can't solve problems at the level of thinking."
Mm,
And I think as long as you're always, when men are fixated on being a victim or on what's going
uh-huh.
wrong, they're always going to create more of that because what you focus on expands.